Hi YouTube, welcome to my video of the top 10 things to buy to resell on eBay. Now this isn't the top 10 things that will make you a fortune, this isn't the top 10 rarest items to hunt for. This is the top 10 of things, of practical items that anybody can pick up easily and make profit on eBay. So it's items that you will have in your home or you can pick up easily at car boot sales, garage sales, flea markets, charity shops and thrift shops. So this is my top 10. So things I like to pick up and have had great success with. So number 10 on this list, it's quite a large subject area really, but I've lumped it into one, and that's sports and camping equipment. Now, sports equipment is a perfect little area for picking up bargains. When you think about it, people get into a sport and they're passionate about it and like, yes, I'm going to be the next whatever, and they buy all the gear and the equipment and the bats and the rackets or whatever it is, and then a year down the line they realize I'm really not fit enough, or I didn't enjoy that, or they break their leg or whatever it is. But you will find this stuff out there, and you will find it here's an example, a hockey stick. You will find it for a fraction of what it was originally bought for. Because when people clear stuff out, they get in the mindset, I want shot of stuff. And that's where you come in. So you can pick it up. We do well on this sort of thing. This is a riding helmet, a kid's riding helmet. And look, this one we bought second hand. It hasn't got a mark on it. I bet that was worn a handful of times. So you can get it for a fraction of what it was. And there is always people on the other end of that spectrum just getting into it. Or with the kids stuff, their kids are just going to school, and on their list they've got to buy them a hockey stick and some hockey boots and this, that and the other. And you will find there's always a market. Some of the sporting stuff is seasonal, but that's not a problem. You will resell it easily. And on the same sort of vein is the camping stuff. You've probably seen in my other videos, I always pick up these camping gas stoves and lanterns, just as good. It's a similar thing to the sports stuff really. People decide they're going to get into camping. Yes, that's what I really want to do. I want to go and enjoy the great outdoors. And then a couple of years later, after a particularly wet and soggy week in Cornwall, they decide, never again, camping is not for me, clear out all that camping gear. And that's where you come in, and you go to the car boot sale and you pick up the burners, the tent, the compass, all of the stuff, and you pick it up for pennies and you stick it online and you just give it to the guy who's at the other end of that spectrum. He's just thinking, I would love to get into camping. Let's do that, kids. Come on. Let's go and enjoy the great outdoors. And they will pick up all of your stuff on eBay. So that's camping and sports equipment is my number 10. Keep an open mind, and when you see it, have a go, buy it. You might be surprised just what you can resell it for. My number 9 on this list is DVDs. Now it's quite low because, to be honest, it's getting harder to make a margin on DVDs. But it's still in my top 10 because they are perfect items to resell, as in they're easy to package. You can just slip them in a bubble wrap envelope, and they are fairly quick to sell if you've got the right stuff. But it's low because, like I say, eBay is flooded with this stuff now, and you know, your feature films, your popular, really big feature films, they're not even worth picking up anymore. You can't resell them at profit. But more niche, specialist stuff and box sets, there is a market for, and you can still make some good money on it. So it's crept in there at number 9, mainly because you will see this stuff everywhere. Here in the UK, if you do car boot sales, you'll know what I mean. You will see it everywhere. You just have to be quite selective and pick out the sort of gems in there and learn what sells. So that's DVDs. That's my number 9. Number 8 is ink and toner cartridges. Fantastic market. If you see them, pick them up. These are ink cartridges, and then toner cartridges you may have seen in some other videos, look like this. Pick them up if they're sealed and in their original packaging. Obviously don't pick up used ones or ones that look like they've, you know, obviously been used, because they won't have any resale. It's a great market. It's a similar thing. People will have had a printer and the printer busts and they've got these sitting in the drawer. And what they don't realise is that these will hold their value. And people clear them for pennies, and that's where you come in, pick them up, resell them. There's fantastic margins on ink cartridges and toner cartridges. They're only at number 8 on my list because you won't find them that regularly, so you can't rely on them. But when you see them, grab them. My number 7 is quite a large category really, and that's household electronics. I find I do really well on kitchen appliances, this sort of thing I pick up. This is new and sealed in its box. You won't find that many new and sealed stuff, but you will if you look hard enough every now and again. You can grab them and make quick and easy money. The good thing about this stuff is it's really fast to sell. There's always someone looking for it. It's another one of those markets where people are gifted this stuff, or they buy it and think, like the bread makers and the juicers, they think, oh, I'm going to get healthy, or oh, I'm going to save some money and make my own bread. And people give it a go for 6 months or a year and then realise, oh, I'm never going to do that. And they get rid of them. But when they sell them on, people tend to really undervalue them. And that's where you come in. And then you've got your gadgets and your little electronic things. Calculators are a really good one, scientific calculators. And then electronic gadgets. There's a gadget for everything. This is a little label writer, just to illustrate what I'm talking about. But they are really, really quick to sell, electronic gadgets. And there can be fantastic profit margins in. iPods and that sort of thing, fantastic. So yeah, household electronics comes in at my number 7. The only downside about that, and the reason it's lower in the list, is that if it's not sealed and boxed, you have to test it and you have to try it out, and it can be a bit of a fiddle. And when you buy it, you don't know that it works half the time, so you will lose out on some of the deals. But there's a lot of profit in it, so experiment with it. Household electronics. My number 6 is books. Now, books is another huge subject. I mean, I tend to pick them up because they're cheap and you can experiment. I do well on my special interest stuff. I buy up books in online sales and resell them. So I buy new books and then resell those. Kids books, I pick up certain ones and I do bundles of them. These are Jacqueline Wilson books. And then you've got your sort of special interest books. This is a guitar lesson book on cupcakes, this sort of thing sells. Special interest again, music books and sheet music books. It's a huge area, and you will find you have to be picky. Most books won't have any resale value, but if you start to learn what sells, you can pick them up cheap. And they are here at number 6 in my list because they are everywhere. And like I said, this is a list of things that anybody can go out and source easily and resell them. So books you will find everywhere, and you will find them stupidly cheap and make great money on. So you just have to learn what sells and be very selective. Right, my number 5 is CDs. This is something I love reselling, and I buy a lot of CDs. It's fairly low on the list because, again, it's suffered the same way DVDs have. The market is flooded. Not as many people are buying CDs these days. It's all about the downloads, but there is still a market. I do well on dance compilations. Certain ones have really good money. There are CDs out there which are particularly collectible, like this, for example. This is an Early Now album, so pick that sort of thing up. Your everyday sort of bog standard artist and band CDs, it's getting harder to make money on those. I still pick them up if they're cheap, and I make bundles up out of them, and they go really well. And then CD audiobooks can be fantastic resale, and people sell them on stupidly cheap, so look out for those. CDs are easy to package and easy to post, so that's another plus in their favour. So that's my number 5 is CDs. You will see them everywhere and there is good money to be made. You do have to be a little bit selective and a bit sort of creative in how you resell them, but there's good money in it. My number 4 is another of my favourite things to sell, and that is board games. From your modern ones, which I pick up all the time. The great thing about this is you will see them everywhere. I source most of my stuff at car boot sales, and you will see them everywhere. And there doesn't seem to be that many people hunting for these things, so it's a market that I think is underexploited. I picked this sort of thing up for £1. If you went to buy this new, it's 25 to 30 quid, and I will resell this for a tenner. So if you're the person that's looking for this, my resale price of £10 on this looks really reasonable, but I pick it up for £1, and I do that time and time again, day in and day out. And then of course you've got your travel games, which are fantastic. People tend to give these away at car boot sales. They're just so cheap, but there's always a market for this. Always pick up your travel games. And then your vintage games, your vintage and your collectible games. There can be huge, insane amounts of money in certain titles. This isn't a particularly valuable game, but it will sell, and it will sell for good money. All forms of Risk actually will resell. But yeah, early, vintage and collectible and obscure board games are fantastic. So yeah, that's my number 4 is board games. Always look for them, always pick them up. You have to be careful with them sometimes that they are complete, and sometimes it takes a long time to check all of the parts and pieces, and it's not practical to do it at the moment when you're buying it. But you can get them for so cheap that it's almost always worth doing anyway. And if it's incomplete, you could always sell the parts on as parts. So that's board games, number 4. My number 3 is computer games. There is a huge market for computer games. You've got your modern stuff, which if you can pick it up cheap, you will sell it so quick. There's a demand for this stuff, like 3DS, PS3. It's already moved on to PS4, so this is kind of getting old now. Xbox 360 and Wii stuff. This all has a market. And then your more vintage stuff, PS2. This is a nice sealed copy of a PS2 game. Look for those, grab them if you see them. There's a big collector's market, and sealed games go for a premium. DS, PS1, you can make a lot of money on PS1 games. And then going right back to your proper vintage collectible stuff, Super Nintendo, Atari, Nintendo 64, Game Boy. There's so much money in this stuff. It's a huge subject. And this has made my number 3 because the demand for this stuff is huge. There's a big collector's market in it, and they sell super quick. And if you find the right ones, and you'll soon learn what to look for, you can make insane amounts of margins on computer games. And the consoles as well. You can pick up the consoles and turn those over. There's always people looking for them. So your Super Nintendo consoles, your old PlayStations, your Ataris, any of that stuff, the handheld stuff, as long as it's in good condition and it's complete, it will sell super quick. But you can sell them for parts as well. You can sell a Super Nintendo just on its own with no wires. You've got to be able to test it. So yeah, computer games, a fantastic market, and that's coming at my number 3. You will find it everywhere. There's quite a lot of competition for this. A lot of people know about the money in computer games, so you have to be quick and get in there fast. My number 2 is kids' toys. Now, I do so well on kids' toys, and there's so much profit to be made. I've done a video about this before, but if you haven't seen that, this is a kind of quick version. So your sort of Mr. Potato Heads, your Lego and Duplo. This is a massive market. You will see this stuff everywhere, and you can pick it up cheap, and it will amaze you what you can resell this for. Lego is a massive market on its own. This stuff is in demand permanently, and there's just so much of it out there. And then anything Thomas and anything to do with Thomas Tank Engine and trains and train sets, the wooden Brio train sets, all of that stuff, there is demand for it, and you will see it. You will see it on a regular basis. And then new toys and games, anything from your Hot Wheels to your wrestling figures, and any sort of toys and games, Nerf guns, anything Angry Birds sells well. The market is huge. Just about, I wouldn't say just about any toy, but there is a market for toys. And then when you talk about your retro and your vintage, the profits and the margins you can make start to spiral. If you find something really nice and collectible and old in the toys and games, like 1980s and 90s stuff is already becoming collectible. But if you go back to the 70s, 60s and earlier, then you get into the real collector's market, and the money you can ask for your stuff is ridiculous. So toys and games is a huge market in itself, and that's my number 2. And then my big number 1 item or market that anybody can find and resell easily and make good money on. What do you reckon that is? Everybody has them. You will have some on you right now. It's good old clothing. Clothing is huge. It's an insatiable market, and the biggest plus point of it is that it's everywhere. Anybody can find it. You can walk into any thrift store, charity shop, and I guarantee I could walk out of there with 4 or 5 items I could make good money on. If you go to car boot sales or garage sales, if you're in the US, there will be clothing that you can make fantastic profits on. You just need to learn what sells, learn some of the brands that sell really well, and then it's shoes, it's hats, it's ties, it's specialist. Well, like I was talking about the sports stuff, that comes into clothing with your sports clothes. It's a huge market. There are lots and lots of people who specialize just in clothing. It's a big part of what we do, and I can't say enough about it. It's easy to find, and then shipping it is great because it can't break, because it's soft anyway. You just put it in a poly mailer and send it out. So I can't extol the virtues of selling clothing on eBay enough if you want to make some quick, easy money. So that is my number 1 item to resell on eBay, is clothing. So anyway, I hope that was interesting and you enjoyed it. Please thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. I'm a full-time eBay reseller. This is what I do to earn my living. And I'm on YouTube making videos about what I do on a day-to-day basis, what I find and what I sell, and talking about what I do. So yeah, thanks for watching guys, and bye for now.